Hello and welcome back once again to After the Credits. Today we're talking about, even though you can't see the poster far up here, Captain Underpants. And I just noticed that my shirt completely blends into the background of this couch, so I apologize for that if I look like a floating head. Alright, so Captain Underpants, what did I think? It was kind of an uneventful film for the most part. I don't really know what I expected going into it. A lot of people told me that they were looking forward to it and felt kind of let down by it. And I'm like, well, what did you really expect from a movie based off of a children's book? And they said that they enjoyed the books when they were kids. I don't really remember reading Captain Underpants when I was a kid. I don't know if it was after my time. The name sort of sounds familiar as something I probably was aware of when I was a kid or a teenager. But I don't remember actually reading this book series, so not sure if this is something I just missed out on or what happened there. But yeah, overall, I don't know what they were expecting going into it. They said the books were good. The extended universe is good, but they were disappointed by this film. Could it just be this, the origin story of Captain Underpants? Who knows? But yeah, I just really don't know what they were expecting or what I was expecting going into this. So I knew it was going to be based on a kid's book, so I wasn't expecting too much, but even some stuff that's based off of children's books or children's intellectual property type of things, where you know they're targeted more towards children than people of my age, they can still end up being good. I mean, look at most of the Disney films. Yes, they're targeted towards children, but adults can enjoy them too. Where this was just kind of like, let's do everything we can to pander to children and not really develop a story. So basically the story is there's these two kids. They met in kindergarten because they had similar senses of humor and both laughed at a fart joke or something that the teacher made. Actually, it wasn't even really a joke. It was like naming the planets and Uranus came up and they both laughed because it was anus. And none of the other kids in the class knew what the joke was. So they're like, hey, you got a similar sense of humor to me, so let's be best friends. And they've been together ever since. I forget what grade they're in now. It's a few years later. They're still small children, but you know, they've been together for a while. One is a good artist, one's a good storyteller, so they decided to start working on comic books because they love comic books. And they've come up with a lot of different ones, but their main one, the one that they love the most out of everything they've done is Captain Underpants. And the whole joke about Captain Underpants is Superman and Batman look like they're wearing their underwear on the outside of their pants, where Captain Underpants doesn't wear pants, so he just has on his underpants. And that's it. So then we meet the principal, who is just a crotchety old man. You know, it's never really explained why he's crotchety, what he has against these two, other than they're constantly pulling pranks and stuff, and just overall being menaces, kind of like I was as a kid, so maybe that explains why the principal is kind of a crotch. No, my principal is just a crotchety old man. It had nothing to do with me. He was that way with everyone. So, yeah, they were just kind of menaces, so he was kind of always angry with them, and finally he got to the point where he was going to split them up and put them in separate classes, so maybe if they're not together, they can't cause all the havoc. And then they just have this, like, emotional breakdown about how they're not going to be friends anymore because they're being put into different classes, and it's like, okay, you can still be friends. Like, me and my best friend were put into separate classes like 3 different times, and we still remained friends because we saw each other every day after school. But they're acting like that would never happen, even though they live next door to each other. Like, oh, we would never see each other, or we'll only see each other on the weekends. And then one day it'll get to be where we like pass each other in the mall and barely remember each other. And it's like, that would be your guys' own choice if that happened. Because again, every day after school, you guys can meet up in your little tree house, draw your comics, have fun. You don't have to be together all the time at school, too. But they're so weird about this that they're like, well, if we can break into his office and get this evidence that he has that we actually pulled this prank, because that was the whole thing. He finally got evidence that they pulled a prank, and that was his grounds for splitting them up. So if we can get this evidence, then he can't split us up because he has no grounds to file this separation. So they break into his office to get the camera back, and he catches them doing it, and like, as they're snooping through his office, they found stuff that he confiscated from them over the years. And one of them happens to be a hypno ring that they got out of like a Cracker Jack box or something. So if that doesn't really date the time that this story originally came about, when you could still get prizes out of Cracker Jack boxes, then I don't know what does. And excuse all the noise, it just really started heavily raining outside. It's been really rainy here the last couple of days, so if you hear a lot of rain and thunder, nothing I can do about it. It's the weather. So one of the things they end up finding is the hypno ring. They never got a chance to take it out of the package before it was taken away from them, so they have no idea how it works or anything. So they're like, well, if you don't give us the evidence and tear up the notice, I'm going to hypnotize you. And they're like, And the principal's like, yeah, right, that doesn't work. So he presses the button on the ring, and it actually ends up hypnotizing the principal. And even he's like, I didn't think that would actually work. So then they're just playing around, having him do different things, like being a chicken, being a monkey, being a dog. And then they get the idea, let's make him be Captain Underpants. So they convince him that he's Captain Underpants, so he goes into the whole characterization of Captain Underpants. He takes off his wig, he strips down to his underwear, rips off a curtain, uses it as his cape, and starts going through the mannerisms of Captain Underpants, which, how does he know the mannerisms of Captain Underpants? Well, he must have read the comics that he's confiscated from them over the years and has a basic idea in the back of his mind of who Captain Underpants is. Otherwise, how would that have worked? So they kind of have fun with that for a little while, and then they're like, well, we can't leave him like this. You know, he does have a job to do. Let's just get the evidence so he doesn't have it. We'll get him to tear up the transfer form, and then we'll put him back to the way he was, and then we'll just have to kind of, you know, be mindful that he's out to get us. And over the course of the time that they're playing around with him being Captain Underpants, an actual evil villain, who I don't know where he came from, but he was just an evil villain, applies for a job for a science teacher at the school, because he's an evil villain. You know, he's an evil mad scientist, so of course he's going to apply to be a science teacher, because that's a perfect cover. So he goes and applies to be the science teacher, and even though the kids are like, maybe we shouldn't hire this guy, the principal is still in the guise of Captain Underpants, who sees good in everything. So, of course, he hires them as the science teacher. So the guy's just chilling out being a science teacher and isn't really doing anything like villainy at first. And then the two main characters, the two boys, start giving him shit for no reason. Like, they're constantly disrupting his class, so he's getting irritable with them. But he's like, whatever, you know, they're just kids. But then they kind of start making fun of his last name once they figure it out. And that's what sets him off on this whole path of villainy, because he wants to eliminate laughter, because he's been laughed at about his last name his whole life. Because his last name, spoilers, is Poopy Pants. He's Professor Poopy Pants. A lot of pants things in this. You got underpants and poopy pants. So, of course, the boys, like, spread his name around school, even though he's just been going by Professor P at this point. So, they start making fun of him about Professor P being P. And then they find out his real name, so they spread it all around the school, like, oh, he's Professor Poopy Pants. Of course, this pisses him off, because everyone's laughing at him. So now he sets in motion his evil plan to eliminate laughter from humanity. He's going to eliminate the gland in the brain that causes laughter. And this elementary school is going to be his guinea pig of how this experiment is going to work. So he starts setting this plan in motion, so of course the kids are like, well, we need Captain Underpants to kind of combat against him, so Captain Underpants is being Captain Underpants. And then at some point, I don't exactly remember how it happened, because I was kind of spacing out at this point, because the movie was just kind of going nowhere. At some point, the principal actually develops the powers of Captain Underpants, which I don't know if he still has them when he's not hypnotized to be Captain Underpants, but when he's under the mental suggestion that he's Captain Underpants, suddenly he has these powers. And I missed exactly where he had him, because he tried to jump out a window and fly before, and he just fell flat on his face. But by the end of the movie, he actually gets the powers where he can fly. He has superhuman strength, you know, things like that. And it's like, okay, I completely missed how that happened, but apparently he has the powers now. So he goes and fights against the bad guy, and it ultimately comes down to Captain Underpants can't really stop him. It has to be the two boys that stop him. And it's their love of poop humor that ultimately becomes Professor Poopy Pants' undoing, because he can't stop their laughter, because their little gland thing is actually like 10 times the size of anyone else. So he's not able to stop their laughter even though he tries, and that ends up being what takes him down more than it ends up being Captain Underpants that takes him down. So then, by the end, they kind of mature a little bit. They realize that the whole reason the guy's crotchety is because of them. And maybe it's better if they separate for a little while. They can still be friends. Just because they're separated in classes doesn't mean they can't still be friends outside of school and see each other every day. And it's like, okay, it's been like 2 days, maybe a week at most, and all this stuff that you just feared was going to happen, now you're like, we were just over-exaggerating, it's not going to happen that way anymore. And that's kind of where the movie boils down to. They actually destroy the ring at the end, spoiler again by the way, to release the principal from the hypnosis so he won't become Captain Underpants anymore. And then at one point in the end credits, something's going on the street. There's a car accident or something's going on, I forget. And somebody snaps their fingers, and the principal snaps back into being Captain Underpants. And they're like, hey, how's that happening? We destroyed the ring, you know, he shouldn't be Captain Underpants anymore. And it's like, yeah, I don't know, but apparently he's still Captain Underpants. The end. So yeah, overall kind of an uneventful movie. A lot of the stuff didn't need to happen if it wasn't for these two boys being dicks. They come to a realization within like 3 days to a week of something they were so concerned about that they were overreacting to, and if they would just let everything go its own natural way, they probably still would have been fine. And they would have gotten in less trouble, and their lives probably would have been a little bit simpler. Again, I don't know what I was expecting going into this. I don't know what other people were expecting going into this. But, yeah, it was more or less just kind of an uneventful film. Like, a lot of the stuff didn't need to happen if it wasn't for these two boys. Like, the professor probably would have been happy just being a science teacher and ignored everyone if they hadn't gone through the hassle of giving him shit about his name. So, yeah, it's just kind of uneventful in the long run. What would I give it as far as a star rating? Probably a 2.5. I was going to say it's just an average middle-of-the-road film, but a lot of it was, like I said, uneventful, didn't need to happen, and didn't really make much sense outside of these two boys caused all their own problems. So, yeah, it's not quite a middle-of-the-road because of that, so I'm going to give it a 2.5. It wasn't horrible. But like I said, I kind of spaced out by the end and missed the whole point of where he got his powers. Maybe it wasn't for me, maybe it's meant for younger people, but there's a lot of younger people that I work with who, like I said, read the books and were looking forward to it and also felt disappointed, so I don't know. Make of it what you will, I guess. And that's pretty much all I got to say about this one, so that's going to be it for this episode. Again, as always, thank you guys for watching. Remember, like, comment, subscribe, share the video. Links are down there in the description. Click the bell up there in the corner. Make sure you get notifications every time I post new content. Until next time, we'll see you after the credits.